Hello everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this newest episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone, and a very happy new year to you all.
And happy new year to you too. And joining us this week as our returning guest, community artist Arsenictyphoon.
Hello! Thank you for having me back. I was kind of surprised when you asked me to come back as your first show for the new year.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had you on, in fairness, so seems only fair. And plus you're local, and considering it's New Year's Day at the time of recording, I think most of our American guests will probably still be asleep.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, I thought like one or two dosages of me was, enough to last a lifetime.
I mean,
you're not as bad as Frederick, don't worry.
I was going to say, if there's ever a day we invite Fresh back on, that will be the not Fresh. No, Frederick. Not Fresh. Frederick. That will be the day hell freezes over.
You'll just start talking about milkshakes. But anyway, we won't go into that.
No, we won't.
No, we already had enough of that on the 100th episode.
Yeah, which was now officially 6 months ago to the recording.
Yeah. True.
God, was it really that long ago?
Yeah, because 13 episodes, 2 weeks is 26 weeks, so 6 months exactly.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it was just before I moved down to Norwich. Or up to Norwich. Direction.
Time, what even is it?
Left to Norwich, right to it. Who knows no one knows this time. Because at the moment, the date today is actually the 32nd of December.
32nd
Mate,
of
2020 is over, get over it.
Finally.
Indeed. So it's a new year, it's a new start, but the last 2 weeks of the year were still pretty busy with different bits and bobs, armies on parade, miniature of the year, new previews, and an extra little reveal on New Year's Day itself. So we've got plenty to dive into in terms of the news.
Yes. Did we actually last time talk about the... No, we did, didn't we? Never mind. I'm talking crap. Anyway, so yeah, miniature of the year. Given the track record of the last couple of years, where it's been a Chaos model winning, surprisingly, it wasn't this time.
Yeah, I have opinions, obviously. So, in terms of the article, they gave honourable mentions to Ragnar Blackmane, Teclis, the Silent King, and the Mega Gargant, which I assume sort of got 7th, 6th, 5th, and 4th, respectively, maybe. As to why they were honourable mentions.
I'm generally surprised Teclis got that high with his T-posing.
Yeah, it is a weird pose. That and his stupid
It's a weird pose, but then you actually work on the model. I think one of the biggest problems is the colour. Like, it's that really pale grey-blue pyjama colour that really doesn't work. But yeah, I agree. And I've seen some amazing conversions of Teclis. I saw one last night of someone who converted him with Alariel parts to make a female Teclis. And there's one where you tilt the head and the arms and it's looking down and it's absolutely badass. But yeah, it's certainly... I think it was more done as fan service to his old pose than it was to good model design. But here we are. It got an honourable mention anyway.
It's got just a lot going on, a bit too much if you ask me.
I mean, I've got the model and I've worked on it and it is an amazing model to work on.
Apart from the base that's all warped and
wonky,
which you have to get a replacement for.
Got a spare one, fixed it, it's all good.
I know, but the original wasn't though, was it?
Yeah.
Okay,
but yes,
the MC camel pants.
I mean, I personally love that model. My vote went to the Light of Eltharion, the Hollow Knight miniature from the start of the year. I
voted for the Zote, the Blackstone Fortress Zote.
Of course, you voted for the Zote.
So yeah, third place, if I remember correctly, was the Triumph of St. Catherine.
Yeah, why did this get so high? I'm sorry, this shouldn't be here.
It's purely because the fact that there's a model in it carrying a pizza.
It's for the memes.
It has been carried purely, I think, on being a Sisters of Battle miniature, because of all the cinematic or dioramic miniatures they've done, this one is by far the worst.
It's not a bad model, though, in fairness.
I don't know about that. When you look at it from an artistic point of view, like the whole... I'm going to annoy my art teachers now, because I've forgotten the word. Composition, sorry. The composition of it is all over the place. Like, if you got the golden spiral for this piece and then held it up to it, it would be all over the place. It wouldn't make sense. There's no spiral. It's like there's no correlation to each piece.
Yeah, I don't know where I still, if I look at it in full, like zoomed out,
you don't know where your eye is meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm looking, and that's where with Catacross and the model I would rather have seen here, if you want a dioramic miniature, the Silent King, I know exactly where I'm looking when I look at the Silent King. It's the Silent King. It's not even the Catan, it's the Silent King, every time. To me, the model doesn't have a focal point, and while it's a nice miniature, it's not the third best model of the whole damn year by a country mile.
Yeah.
Blame the people.
It really isn't.
So yeah, in second place, we got the Void Dragon, which is...
I have less objections here.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm just going to say, just to point out the point I made about the golden spiral, hold it up to this, it's perfect in that if you look at all of the different shards and the pieces coming off of him, it works around to a spiral to the point that you're meant to be focusing on.
Mm.
And that is what you want in a artsy piece when it comes to a model.
Yeah, I think, and also I think that even taking the artistic bit out, in terms of the design, the miniature design skill that goes into creating such a hopefully stable miniature built purely on flying lightning is really impressive as well.
Yeah. It actually kind of comes back to this one thing I remember I was talking to one of the designers at 2019 Warhammer Fest, because 2020 didn't happen for obvious reasons, where he was talking about how when it came to flying miniatures, he would try and do everything possible to not have to use like a flying support. So if there was some aspect of the model that he could sculpt and incorporate into it so that they didn't have to have a flying support, he'd do that, and that's clearly what they've done here with the multiple bits of the lightning coming off. And they've done, I think the reason why it's probably so stable is because when you actually look at it, it's only a couple pieces here and there that are actually sticking to the Void Dragon, but then you actually look at what those pieces are connected to, and it's this whole interlocking kind of grid which keeps it all in place.
Yeah, it is a really, really impressive piece of model design in general. And I think you're absolutely right. As looking at it as a physicist, talking about how the stability of an object is based on whether its center of mass is inside of its base. Now, obviously, it has a base, but in terms of the lightning, which you can't see the base in the photo, the lightning base is wider than the Catan is, even at the widest point of its wingspan. So you know that the center of mass is concentrated inside that, I assume, spiral. It won't even be a flat line, it will be a spiral of lightning, or a ring of lightning to help keep it super stable. And it is genuinely really impressive engineering as well as art.
Yeah.
I'll say this, it looks a hell of a lot more stable than the Celestine model.
Yeah, and I always look at the model that I always come back to is the Celestant Prime. Do you know the Stormcast model?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the one surrounded by a big swirling wind vortex, and it's also doing the same T-pose that the Void Dragon is, but it just looks a billion times worse. And I've never put my finger on why. And then I look at the Void Dragon, and I'm like, right, Celestant Prime, take notes. This is how you do it. But yeah. And then top spot went to Macquarie, and I guess Gazkul too. This is pure 40k fandom being bigger than any other fandom in the hobby, and there were some people in comments saying, should we just split the voting so that AOS and stuff gets one vote and 40k gets the other, because AOS can never, ever, ever win because it's the smaller fandom.
Yeah.
But that said, the Gazkul miniature is lovely. I do really like it. I've got one somewhere that I need to build. And I think if I think through all the 40k models that came out this year, I think some of the Necron models are nicer, but they don't have the history that Gazkul does, which is why Abaddon wins and Notarian wins and Magnus wins. They win on their name as much as their design sometimes.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, that's, for me, is kind of why I was a little bit disappointed by the Teclis model. Because Teclis, he's a character spanning all the way back to the 80s.
Mm.
And he's just there doing the T-pose.
Yeah, I think if he had like some sort of magical aura coming up, I can see the idea that he's like radiating light magic out of his body in that position. It's kind of the classic open arm caster's pose.
Yeah.
But you can't show that in miniature. And the worst part about Teclis, and I know we were supposed to be talking about Gazgul, but I'm happy to talk about Teclis till the cows come home, is
the
artwork of Teclis in the Lumineth Battle Tome is like the best thing ever. It's amazing, the artwork. How did we go from that artwork to that model?
The artwork radiates, I am a god of light. I'm this celestial elven being. And that model just... I had to double take when I read that it was Teclis. Because I'm just like, that doesn't scream, I'm a literal god to me. Like Morathi's model... Alariel's model, those are, big godlike pieces. And then you have
Morathi
Teclis.
wasn't even a god yet. She is now, but she wasn't at the time.
She had to knife a few people in.
She had to go and eat the Phoenix Kings. That's what she did. She dove into Slaanesh's belly, ate the Phoenix Kings, and then got Fusrodad by Anarian so hard her soul split in two. Or at least that's my personal headcanon.
It's basically, it was the ultimate begone thought.
I was going to say, Fusrodad, it's a shame it wasn't Calador then doing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, Calador never liked her. Calador never liked her, so he would.
But that's so good though, because it's Calador Hang on, didn't Calador no, that was another Calador. There was a Calador that was Phoenix King, but not that Calador.
There's been several Caladors, but Calador Dragon Tamer was best friends with Anarian.
And the one who got stuck in the vortex, right?
Yes, he's the one who made the vortex.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so basically, he never liked Morathi. He could see from day one that she was the corrupting influence to Anarian. And it was only when they finally pulled the ultimate bros before hoes at the end that he snapped out and Anarian gave Morathi the middle finger.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, the High Elven lore... I was actually a High Elves player before AOS, so I do know the High Elves lore pretty well. Funny that, because I went from playing High Elves in Fantasy to all my Elven armies being Darkling Covens, Daughters of Cain, Order Serpentis, and all of that. And then Idneth came out, and now they're working with the Daughters. More spoilers. So my only good guy army is my Lumineth, and something we'll get to a little bit later, because they teased something today, and I want to talk about it, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other big vote... sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. The other vote that took place was the Armies on Parade vote, which wasn't done by us. The community, that was done by the design team, I think. Or various members of GW. And there were some very impressive results. I'm not going to run through them all, but a Speed Freaks Canyon racer type thing won for 40k. AOS was won by a Night Haunt Spook Parade that looks like it literally just came from my GW in France when I lived in France. And Best of the Rest was won by Halflings in a Picnic Basket. Not even kidding. It's a Halfling team for Blood Bowl where the board is made to look like a picnic basket.
That's beautiful.
Also, we've had the Black Library 2020 year in review, and somewhat surprisingly, it's literally all 40k stuff that they talk about. There's nothing AOS related. There's nothing Necromunda related. There's you got some the Siege of Terror stuff, but everything else is just 40k, 40k, 40k.
That's about
Which
right.
is good for people watching a 40k podcast, but for general Games Workshop and Black Library as a whole, it seems very unusual for them not to mention at least one Age of Sigmar book at some point, though.
Yeah, because I'm looking at Realm Lords. I'm looking at... Was Court of the Blind King this year? Broken Realms isn't Black Library. That's GW's arm rather than Black Library,
right,
sadly.
okay. Didn't know.
But yeah, I'm looking at Realm Lords in particular. and Covens of Blood that's just come out, which probably ties in around Broken Realms. You've got Gotrek, I think, got a book this year. I think. No, maybe. No, he didn't. I can't keep track of what happened in 2020. Yeah, I can't keep track of what was when.
I'm pretty sure Gotrek and Felix coming back was 2019.
Yeah, possibly.
There wasn't the Ghoulslayer book this year, though. Or last year, rather, sorry.
I think Ghoulslayer might have been in, like, February.
I think Ghoulslayer was 2020.
Yeah, I think it was, like, February or something. It was a very long year, and trying to keep track of everything is tricky. But that is a bit disappointing. It was March.
It was in March.
Okay. So, there has been fiction outside. Also, did they touch on horror? Crime?
No, they didn't.
Did they talk about that at all?
Crime got mentioned. Oh, Crime got mentioned.
And
that was the big thing they talked. Yeah, that was like the big thing they talked about. But that was basically it. They talked about Warhammer Crime.
They spoke about
books,
No
Dawn
Good
of
Men,
Fire,
Dredge Runners,
Indomitus, Siege of Terror, Infinite and Divine, and Brutal Cunning, and that's basically about it.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It is what it is, and I'm not surprised, but it's certainly not ideal.
Also we got another update. We got an update regarding Warhammer: The Old World. Our first look at Bretonia.
We did.
Yes, that's correct.
So we didn't get.
I find it came like at the end of 2020 after people were like, "Oh, what the hell happened to Old World?" Here it is.
Yeah, they did say they were going to update very infrequently. But as it is, they have given us the map of Bretonia and also confirmed that whilst we may be playing in the old world, we're not just going to be dealing with like the Empire and stuff. Because they talk about orcs, they talk about the Bretons, they talk about the High Elves as well.
Enclaves, yeah.
And of course, Athel Loren is right there. So, hello, Wood Elves. Hi, how you doing? We didn't get any miniatures at this time, but it's good to see sort of a wider fleshing out of the old world, and now we've got a wider map with knowing that Kislev's there, Athel Loren down there. We don't know how far east they're going to go, like with the World's Edge Mountains in Sylvania. We'll have to see, but it's good to see that they're going to not just make it about 2 or 3 factions and call it a day.
Yeah.
I still maintain that we're not going to get anything more substantial until probably after they finish dealing with the Horus Heresy.
Oh, yeah, I don't think, as much as they said it was a 2 to 3 year project before they were even going to get anywhere, I do think you're right that it's probably going to be until Horus Heresy Book 10 and any other books they decide to do before we get any official sort of dates or releases. And heck, they might even just decide to start putting miniatures out once they've done the last Primarch and all the bits of the Legion miniatures. They might want to do one more big book, but the miniatures team can just pivot into doing old world miniatures since they'll be able to play them in fantasy before the old world drops.
Yeah. That depends on whether or not for Horus Heresy we're going to get models for the Demon Primarchs. Because obviously, we got Magnus and we got Mortarion for 40k, but we haven't got anything in regards to, say, like Angron or Fulgrim. So, I mean, considering that Angron and Fulgrim running around as demons for a good chunk of the Heresy...
I have a feeling, though, that if they were going to bring in Angron and Fulgrim to, like, either Horus Heresy or 40k, I think that would come with a whole set of Slanesh or Khorne being thrown in as well, just to tie in with it.
And since Slanesh has just had its AOS run, it can get to the back of the bloody queue, thanks.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. There's been like an onslaught of Slanesh from AOS. Though they might actually possibly use that to tie into 40k, given that a lot of people tend to use some of the models in AOS when it comes to like Tzeentchian demons for Tzeentchian armies in 40k.
Yeah, they'll often use like the Kyrek Acolytes for cultists. Just to give an example, if you're a Chaos Space Marines player, they're slightly bulky cultists.
Yeah.
As an example. So that's definitely something they can do. And it'll be interesting to see what we do get in terms of the Demon Primarchs. Personally, I think if they were going to do it, I feel like they'd have done it. Because when they're now at the point in history of, where are they? Shadow Crusade. So, no, they're not.
Thramas Crusade.
Thramas Crusade, wrong one. And that happened, I think, after the events of the Shadow Crusade, because Imperium Secundus is dissolved at the point where the Thramas Crusade finally really ends and Curze is finally dealt with. So I think I might have my timeline all wrong here, but I feel like the Shadow Crusade happens before the Thramas Crusade, if only because of the Ruin Storm. So I feel like that boat may have already sailed.
But then again, we are also still due to get its model for the Emperor at some point as well, though.
Oh yeah, we know that's coming.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And to those wondering how do we know that's coming is because in Constantine Valdor's rules, there's rules saying he will be the general of a Talon's army unless the Emperor is present.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of confirmed it.
They better do something like big and grand for the Emperor, because otherwise it's going to be one of those things that I feel like they've never done it before, because if he's not like the biggest, most awesome model ever, people are going to be let down.
I tell you what's going to, it's going to be a model on the scale of Smaug. That size.
And I mean, we already know that with, like, let's say, Sanguinius, we know how...
There was a huge letdown, exactly.
Yeah, I don't mind Sanguinius, but Sanguinius without his scenic base does look a bit silly. So it's one of those...
He still looks better than the Lorgar model. Lorgar model was just so boring.
It's Lorgar, who cares?
Yeah.
And I know there's one word there of people listening who are absolutely wanting to cut me for that sentence, but...
Listen, he's been chased around the warp by Korax. He can get fucked.
Let's go with that. But in terms of miniatures that are also jumping or falling out of great unbalanced angles, shall we talk about Christmas Day and Lilith Hesperax?
What is up with her pants?
So, this is the Christmas...
They took away her thong and then gave her incredibly low-riding pants. Or rather, trousers.
I thought they were called greaves, but hey.
So this comes from the Christmas Day preview, where they confirm we'll be getting a new battle box called Piety and Pain, Drukhari versus Adepta Sororitas. So if you're a Drukhari player, you get a brand new Lilith Hesperax, complete with bigger hair, more pants, and a interesting pose that basically can we stop making people jumping off with one toe because it looks incredibly unbalanced. 10 witches, 5 scourges, and a venom. And for the sisters, you are getting some retributors, an immolator, and the palatine, which was first revealed all the way back in August, I think. Or maybe July on Indomitus Day. One of the two.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate that? I think this is like the second style box that we've seen that doesn't have Space Marines in it at all. The other one being Blood of the Phoenix.
I mean, I've already
it's certainly a rarity.
I've already straight up said to, like, I have a friend, Steph, who she absolutely loves sisters. I've recently been on an Eldar kick, so we already know how we're splitting this.
Yeah, that's
so you're getting the sisters then.
But yeah, I certainly think I've had a bit more time to think about this. I made a video about this box on Boxing Day, and I feel like I prefer the old Lilith to the new one, but that's because the old Lilith was one of my favourite miniatures ever.
I don't know. I'm just going to say, anatomy-wise, I really like this. I prefer it. I feel there's more detail on her face. The trousers are certainly a choice. But I I really like this.
Yeah, like if the 5th edition model didn't exist, I would have no issue with it. But the 5th edition Lilith Hesperax, to me, is one of the best miniatures I think GW's ever done, especially considering it was a metal model. It was one of my favourite miniatures from an army I've never collected. I've more than once thought about buying a Drukhari army, pretty much entirely because I wanted to build it around that Lilith Hesperax model. This one doesn't do it the same for me, and I don't know if it's the face or it's the pose or what. It's certainly nothing to do with the trousers. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's something about this model doesn't quite work for me the same way the old one did. Maybe it was just because that one was so stripped down and simple that it was elegant in simplicity. I don't know.
like, sorry, I'm disagreeing with you here, because the
No, it's
thing I
fine.
don't like
By all
about the
means.
old model is, once again, it comes to the anatomy where I can't help but feel like she is built like a Dorito.
Yeah, I suppose if you wanted to be a buff
does.
gladiator monster, it suits her to be a bit more built as she is now. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, especially when you consider that it feels like the old model, they're just like, oh yeah, you know, what is a built woman? Oh, it's just a space marine with tits. That's the vibe I get. It feels like they didn't know how to do a built woman, whereas I feel like they've clearly got an artist here who more understands the anatomy more and has worked with it more. There's really nice curves and a nice flow to the pose, and they're less just a Dorito. Like,
Yeah, I think that's
this is
very
the
fair.
anatomy. This is the type of anatomy I could believe is not only strong and powerful, but is also incredibly like dexterous and
Deserving of
acrobatic.
Initiative 9.
Yes.
Is she still Initiative 9? She used to be Initiative 9. Oh wait, Initiative's not a thing anymore, Tack. Initiative's not even a thing. Oh dear. Yeah, I get what you mean. I just, yeah, absolutely. I think anatomy-wise, this is a vast improvement. I just don't think the pose does it for me, and I think that's what's put me off the model compared. And the hair seems too much, or maybe I'm just overthinking it and the hair seems too much. I don't know. But I think you're definitely right.
I'm still going to stand the 3rd edition one just purely for nostalgia purposes.
I mean, fair enough, I suppose. It was a design. It was a design.
It is definitely BDSM elf queen design.
Plus you got the pitchfork as well, which is awesome.
Was it a trident?
Trident, pitchfork, same thing.
It'll be interesting to see if she actually has got the ult, because back in 5th edition, Lilith could swap one of her knives for a spear trident thing called an impaler. It'll be interesting to see if she still has that option. I think it'd probably be better on her offhand, her left hand, but it'll be interesting to see if she has it.
Oh, and speaking of previews and such, something that actually dropped today was the New Year's new models
I mean,
video.
we weren't done with Christmas Day, Rem.
Were we not?
We're not done with
There
Christmas
was
Day.
just a
There's still lot
minor
on
deal of
Christmas
a
Day.
brand new Slanesh battle tome and 4 different units to get through before we get there.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads up to what you're going to go into there, Rem, but yeah. More Slanesh.
Yeah, so we knew we were going to get more Slanesh because we got the Lord of Pain back in November with Shadow and Pain. But they've got a full battle tome with 2 new units of cavalry with Exalted Steeds, Slangor Fiendbloods, and also Bliss Barb Archers, who will be your basic battle line infantry. And they are...
I like the Bliss Barb Archers.
I do, yeah. I really like the unit champion. I like that pose. I don't know why I like that pose.
Is that the one who has her leg up on the rock?
No, it's the one as you scroll. That's the one with the I don't know what you call it, the hand weapon with the bow down and the hand weapon. The one next to the one on the rock.
1 second, I'm just going through them.
I think it's the one that's the unit champion. If I had to hazard a guess, I think it's the unit champion just by the slightly more extravagant headpiece and the fact that they've got an elaborate melee weapon versus just a knife. I mean, it's not a bad knife. It's an elaborate knife, but it's a knife. But I think there are some really nice ones in there as well. Like the ones stood on rocks, mostly, I agree, are pretty good.
I'm just going to say, though, I absolutely love that they've chosen this. Like, oh yeah, we have archers, Slanesh, peacock feathers.
Yeah, you mean for the Fletchers on the arrows?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It is all really elaborate in general. The designs of the hair, the bows, the armor, such as it is, the weapons in general, the arrowhead, the arrow fletchers, as you say. It is all really exotic and elaborate, which is a good direction to take Slanesh, other than, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, because we need to move away from sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I definitely feel like what they've done with the new Slaanesh models that they've been releasing, they definitely have a more cultural theme running for them now. That they're like, yeah, okay, we're definitely going for a huge Mesopotamian harem kind of feel with all of these new models, which really works with Slaanesh.
Because the elves are Greek, so it fits, like the Spartans versus the Persians, just as a classic example.
Yeah, so it really works. And it's something that they haven't really incorporated before. And from what I can see, the artists seem to be having a lot of fun with it. And I'm not saying that because I've spoken to the artists. I'm saying that because I'm just looking at these models. I'm like, yeah, me personally, I would definitely be having fun with this.
Yeah, they've also slightly, not changed, but added a new variant to the steeds of Slaanesh, which is the mounts for Seekers, by the way, if you're a 40k player and have no idea what I'm talking about. They're the steeds.
Seahorses.
To me, they were like, it's Kingdra with legs.
I can't help but think they look like seahorses.
Yeah, I slightly prefer the original Seeker steeds. I don't, just ever so slightly, but they're not a bad design at all, and they are definitely unique as cavalry. And the Slangor Fiendbloods are really good. The Slaaneshi Beastmen are really good. Yeah. As well. And I totally agree. And that leads up to, which I think what Rem was going to say, the New Year's preview, where they dropped... Fat Xerxes, Glutos Orskolian, the Lord of Gluttony, on a really weird and busy palanquin model that takes the Chaos War Shrine and the Achelian Leviathan and says, sup. Because it's the Howdar of a Leviathan pulled on a chariot by the beasts of the War Shrine, but more Slaaneshi. It is a really, really cool model.
You know what? I'm going to say something cursed, and you're either going to love me or hate me for saying this, but I feel like this is what Ian Watson was meant to be, trying to depict, or what he was trying to describe when he was going through, the Slaanesh stuff. He was trying to aim for this, but he went completely off his rocker.
We'll give him the benefit of the doubt and go with that. But it is
I'm throwing him a bone here, but not that kind of bone.
Yeah. It's a really impressive sculpt and really suits sort of, if you still want to play into the idea of the 7 deadly sins for Slaanesh, which I think is not a bad place to take it, or with Chaos in general, using envy in terms of some of the designs, and gluttony for this model, and avarice for sort of their desire to, experience every emotion, that greed in many ways. It is a really good direction to take them. And it doesn't infringe on Nurgle, which generally has a monopoly on fat, tentacled humanoids. Yeah.
I find it quite interesting that you bring in the 7 deadly sins aspect to it. I'm going to, out myself as I'm not so much anymore, but I used to be an absolute weeb. And in the Soul Eater manga, they actually go through this Book of Ebon, where each chapter is based on the 7 deadly sins, and they have gluttony and lust right next to each other, because they talk about how they are just sins of indulging in excess. And how gluttony isn't just necessarily eating loads of food, it is in itself a different form of lust, but for consumption, that being drugs, alcohol, food.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but that is an interesting way of putting it, because Khorne kind of has wrath all nailed down to itself.
And I found it interesting you brought up envy, because I feel like envy would be more of a Tzeentchian.
Yeah, it probably would, now you say it.
Yeah, because it's all about jealousy and, backstabbing and everything.
And a desire for change, which is at Tzeentchi's core what it represents. Nurgle's sloth. Exactly. Yeah. Though I don't know the 7 deadly sins on the top of my head. I haven't really read them enough to remember.
So it's pride, Wrath, Sloth,
Their corns.
Envy, Lust, Gluttony. I'm missing one.
I feel like it's avarice.
Greed,
Yeah, greed or avarice. Yeah. Because pride is definitely, well, it's a mix of all of them, to be honest. It's partly Slanesh, Khorne, martial pride, Tzeentch, sort of just general pride before the fall type confidence, arrogance.
Yeah. Yeah, and they actually also have demons, biblical demons who are tied into each one of them as well, who are meant to represent each of the sins. And if I remember correctly, pride was meant to be it's seen as the most grave and most common sin because of exactly as what you just said. Pride comes from a lot of different things, and that's why pride is usually symbolized by Lucifer.
Yeah, I don't know the reading enough to fully comment on it, but yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. But it wasn't actually just the Lord of Gluttony that they snuck in on this preview. It's the only one they showed off. But the teaser video showed off a number of different things, including Lumineth on clouds, and everyone just immediately made Goku references. Lumineth riding something that's
Journey
not
to the
a
West.
horse. Say again?
I mean, I said Journey to the West, primarily because, and I say that because I know you said ancient Greeks with the Lumineth, but I've been getting incredibly massive Chinese vibes from them, ancient China. Have you? I don't know if you know anything about the Journey from the West, but it's a Chinese tale which, interestingly enough, you mentioned Goku. It actually kind of inspired Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. With the Monkey King, he literally flies around on a cloud.
Yeah, for me, the reason I go Greek is for the Daughters of Cain, you've got Medusa, harpies, and that sort of a creature.
I'd definitely say the Iden of Deepkin and the Daughters of Cain have Greek influences.
And I don't know, to me, the Lumineth kind of feel like they've got the look of Athenian warriors. Not the shields. They're more classic kite shields.
I guess so, but if later on remind me, and I'll send you over some ancient Chinese art, woodblock prints and stuff, and you'll probably see that there's a slight resemblance, especially Teclis himself kind of looks like one of the old woodblock prints of the gods.
I mean, I'm not. I think you may well have a fair point. And it's just maybe for me, it's because I think of phalanx pikemen, archers, and cavalry being the staple of the Greek military machine that conquered the world. But then the whole bonding to the elements thing probably is a bit more Chinese, I suspect, working off the elements rather than maybe they were Greek and then they got too arrogant for their own good. The Spirefall happened and they fixed it. Maybe that's what the trail they were trying to tell. Who knows? But yeah, if I remember, I'll remind you later to send that through. But that's fair. It's a fair one. And there's the other one they showed for the Lumineth was a cavalry model, certainly not on the same type of horse. It looks a lot bigger. Bigger and with a lot more fur as well. So some people were saying, goat, please be goat. We don't know.
Cow.
We've already got one of those.
Yes, but we've had the Minotaur, but now we've just got we've got a normal cow. I mean, there's a lot of cows in Journey to the West as well, so
yeah, true. But we also knew I had a feeling this was coming anyway because the Realm Lords book only had one of the 4 Lumineth temples, the Alarith, the Temple of the Mountain. We know that the Lumineth have the Temple of the River, the Temple of the Zenith, and of the Peak. And these guys, I think, will be the Temple of the Peak using the winds, because Cloud Riders and things like that. And I think this will also eventually lead to Tyrion. I feel like we're going to get a model for Tyrion. I don't know why. I feel like we will. But I don't know if we'll get him or Malerion first.
Oh, I hope we have Malerion soon. I want to see him so bad.
Yeah, and we know that the Umbraneth are coming as well. They spoiled it by accident. We'll see.
I saw that Brem sent it to me as soon as it was spoiled, and I was like, soon.
Yeah.
I just really like my boy, okay? My crispy boy.
Very
Give him
fair.
back to me, GW.
But there was plenty more in that trailer as well as all of that. So 40k, we got the first look at a new Titan or Titanicus or Knight miniature. I'm not sure exactly. It's got a Titanicus symbol on it somewhere, so I'm guessing it's a Titan.
It's Legio Mortis. Judging from the event intakes on it, it looks like some type of pattern of Warlord.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly the intermediary between Warlord and Imperator.
I know, alongside it, though, they had a new Skittari model of some kind.
Yeah, we'd actually seen that model before back at Indomitus Day. They actually sent the first sort of teaser image of that miniature. We've got a better look at it today. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing it'll be like a Skittari Alpha that will work as a HQ model, so you don't have to take a Tech Priest Dominus because, well, it is a bit silly that you have to take a Tech Priest Dominus when the rest of your army can be Skittari.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least to me it does, because I remember reading a book by Rob Sanders where the entire mission was conducted where the Skittari were on the ground and the Mechanicus were just talking to them through comlink and issuing their commands that way rather than being on the ground themselves. So I don't know why the Skittari have never had their own HQ, but I think this is what that will be.
Yeah.
Then was the Cloud Lumineth, then it was the Cavalry model.
Zombie Pirate.
And yeah, Zombie Pirate and Vampire Hunter, I think was what everyone sort of jumped to. Which, yes, please. I don't know where they'll fit, whether they'll go into Sigmar or Old World, but yes, more of this, please.
I imagine Sigmar, considering that Old World's not going to be for a while yet. And I doubt they would already have, models already developed and painted for Old World at this point in time.
Fair point. Very fair point.
But yeah, Zombie Pirates for Order of Death, for the Death faction in AOS.
It'd be something
very popular.
Oh, it'd be something good to do with Deathwalkers. Deadwalkers, not Deathwalkers. The Deadwalkers that have just sort of been smushed into Legion of Nagash and sat there as 2 units and a Necromancer. Giving them some personality and leaders would be a nice move, I think. I think that was it in terms of... Oh, no, I'm wrong. There was a teaser from Middle-earth as well. They didn't show it in full, but they did sort of show us some silhouettes of... I haven't seen the Lord of the Rings films, but I heard someone use the word Easterlings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sauron's human followers, basically.
Yeah, who are... certainly coded to be Asian. It's like, great, we have the first humans who are not white, and they're evil.
Tolkien era fiction, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, let's move on.
Yeah, there's not much more we can really say. We also, actually, they snuck out on Christmas Day, Saul Tarvitz. Of the Emperor's Children for Horus Heresy is now available if you wanted him.
Even though he's been dead in the fiction for about 15 years.
But has remained popular despite being dead.
I think the last time we heard of him, his name getting name dropped in the Rhinonaur short story. And that was about it.
Well, I mean, yeah, he canonically died in the bombing of Istvan, didn't he?
I mean... We've had plenty, we've had dead Primarchs, they've still got models, so...
Yeah, but the thing is, at the time, they were still alive in regards to the Horus Heresy story when they got their models.
No, Ferrus Manus was dead.
Yeah, but in fairness, his model came out at the time of the Istvan 5 Drops Massacre, so it was appropriate for when his model came out.
Oh, but when you said the fiction, I thought you were referring to, the books. Fulgrim the book, not Horus Heresy Book 2. Massacre.
Right, sorry, I should have been clear. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, and Saul Tarvitz, he's had rules for I
think he was in book 1.
Nine books ago, yeah.
Yeah, he was in book 1, as I recall.
Took you bloody long enough to get a character from the first book, which was about 9 years ago or so now, at least.
Yeah.
Probably longer than that, actually, I think. Actually, when was... When was that released?
2012. Was it that?
2012.
Oh, fair enough. Not as long as...
So basically, it's been almost 10 ye's since he's had his rules.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
One final PSA in terms of news. So GW have confirmed that for January and February at least, they'll be moving to bi-weekly releases rather than weekly. So there'll be no pre-orders this weekend, the 2nd of January or the 9th. The first pre-orders of 2021 will be the 16th of January, which will be the Death Guard. And there will be a codex every month following that for Warhammer 40,000. Slaanesh and the rest of Age of Sigmar stuff will drop in February. So it's going to be a slightly slower release, but they have said that there will be no additional cost to the customer in terms of the UK leaving the EU, because at the time of writing this article, there was no deal on the table. There now is, and it's done and all of that. But at the time, they didn't know, and GW have said they will deal with all the customs and duties that are added to costs shipping to the EU or wherever else from the UK as a result of Brexit. So there should be no additional cost to European customers going forward, which is good, because Warhammer was already expensive enough.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's just hope they don't do what they do to, like, America or Australia.
Yeah, if anyone's getting screwed over in prices, it's the Australians and people in New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
Have you seen those? It's incredibly inflated.
It's ridiculous. I've got a friend of mine is in my Discord servers from New Zealand, and every time something drops, he looks at the numbers, does the converter, and goes, "What?" Or words to that effect, anyway.
Yeah, I've seen a few people on Twitter post like the difference in the numbers, and it's staggering.
Yeah, so like something that's like 35 quid in the UK or like $80 in New Zealand or something.
Yeah.
And even that doesn't even match with the conversion rate either.
No.
Oh dear.
Absolutely.
Still, I want to thank the people in New Zealand anyway, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be able to get the actual links for pre-orders.
Yeah, that's what matters. They'll pay twice as much for the Warhammer as long as you get your pre-orders.
Your sacrifice will not be in vain.
I mean,
of course.
Thanks to New Zealand, we also have lovely artists like Jet Black Raider.
Also very, very true.
Yes, that's true.
So, does anyone have any New Year's hobby resolutions, or is it just a case of, well, deal with it as it comes?
I mean,
same old, really.
Yeah, I'm literally in the middle of dealing with a master's, so
yeah, I know how hard that is.
I have cosplay stuff that I need to work on, and I also have some like models that I need to paint at some point in the middle of doing all of like my master's stuff. So it's literally just me throwing up my hands and being like, sure, whatever.
Yeah, I remember during my master's year, I broke my collarbone, so I couldn't paint for months anyway. But I remember when I was doing my master's year, the channel just pretty much went on hiatus from March, and I didn't paint a model as I was scrambling to get ready for exams and project coursework and all of that. And really, I didn't start painting again until uni was over. I had a 2-month run before I moved to start a PGCE. Got nothing until January, got another 2 weeks splurge, then did nothing for 8 weeks again. Then lockdown happened and I did a load. And then went back to work in September and I've barely got anything done again. So it really does just, it comes at you when it comes at you.
Yeah. I mean, because of lockdown, I've been doing most of my work at home anyway, so it's like, it's not like I can even clear away my desk to move my laptop so I can do some painting, because everything always has to be set up so I can just get straight to doing work. And I've fallen into this like really bad trap when it comes to working at home with doing, my coursework and stuff, because unless I'm very strict with myself and set myself a time, because I usually do this if I was working in the studio in the campus that, okay, I've got in at this time, I'm going to be leaving at this time because that's healthy. If I don't do that with myself whilst I'm working at home and be like, I've started at this time, I'm going to work up to here and give myself breaks as if I was like, doing a 9-to-5 job, I will work all the way through the day in the evening. And then I'll end up getting a migraine and having to then, take a day off, and then I'll have to catch up, and it just becomes this really bad cycle.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to know when to stop. And that's something I fell into the habit of. I was working, I think, 15, 16-hour days sometimes this last half term.
Yeah. And it'd be actually quite interesting to see how much of a problem that's become with the rest of the country, because I imagine it's become a massive problem. And it's something that, not just myself, but other people in my class have faced to an extent where they've either been overworking themselves or they've fallen into a trap where they're at home, they're working, but their bed's right there. They could totally just take a nap.
Definitely. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I want to try and get my Darkling Coven's segment of my elves done before too long, and I'd quite like to just clear my hobby backlog this year. I think that's the objective. It's like clear Shadow and Pain, clear the Idoneth Deepkin box I've got, and clear the various bits of Lumineth and Daughters and Darkling I've got lying around. If anything new comes out, I'm going to try and just buy the books, because the models will be there. So just get the books when they come out, like get the Slaanesh book, get the second Lumineth book if it drops this year, whatever else. Just stay in the literature, but don't get any more models because they just won't get worked on.
Yeah, like I've got a Magnus model that I got in 2019 in May, and it's still in the box. I've got like everything to work on it, but he's still in the box.
Yeah, I made a point over Christmas of building like everything. So I built the Melisai, I built the Blackguard, I built the Dark Shards, I built the Dragon, because then it's sat there and I don't have to think about, I've got to think about all the sub-assemblies and put it together before I can even think about painting it. If they're already built, I can just like do 10 minutes here, do half an hour there, and just very slowly work my way through them rather than them all just being sat in their boxes out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Well, at least that's what I'm telling myself anyway. Rather than just having this massive grey sat on my desk being like, well, come on, then sort it.
I feel the reason why I haven't been able to get around to it as well is because when I'm not working on, uni stuff, then I'm also either doing personal artwork or I'm working on commissions. And then when I want to actually relax, I want to do something that will actually allow me to rest my eyes. Which I can't really do if I can't really do if I'm working on models. That's just going to be even more eye strain.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. Actually, I hadn't even thought about that aspect of it. Yeah, that's very fair.
It's once again, it's a vicious cycle.
Agreed. And I suppose if you're Rem, it's different again, I guess, because you work yourself far too hard already with your videos. Are we on less than 39 hours straight this week at least?
No.
I've lost track of like Rem's sleep cycle. Like
he doesn't have one.
Yeah, you concern me, Rem.
I mean, because you got a message from me at 3:00 this morning?
Yeah, I got a message from you at 3:00, but then in the past it'll be 7 in the evening and you'll be telling me that you're going to go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm just
it's all over the place. It's all over the place.
What the hell?
Sometimes I'll go to bed at 7:00 in the evening. Sometimes I'll go to bed at 2:00 in the morning and get up at 3, and sometimes I won't sleep for 39 hours straight.
For fuck's sake, Rem. Please get a sleep schedule. Come on. If I'm working at home and I've managed to somehow give myself a schedule of all of the things I do, I will personally, once lockdown is finished, come to your house and enforce a bloody schedule for you. It's going to be on the wall. I'm going to do little graphics and everything. And if you don't stick to it, I'll know.
Anyway.
And this is a threat.
So stay hydrated, this is a threat.
Yes, stay hydrated, Remleiz. This is a threat.
I love that bear picture, that's awesome.
Yeah, I have a friend who his brother once printed that out and gave it to his nan.
I bet she was thrilled about that. What's wrong with this bear's face?
Stay hydrated. This is a threat. No, get a sleep schedule, Remleiz. This is a threat.
Yes.
And we're aware that, yes, it's the first podcast of the year, and we're not exactly all super happy, cheery, and I know that maybe that's what you were hoping for this morning.
I mean, it's the first podcast of the year, so it's the great time to set a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm still upholding my resolution from, like 20 years ago to not have any more resolutions, so...
I mean, I've kind of made a bit of a resolution for myself. So... it's going to be the traditional one of going on a diet, but I've recently found out that I have a very, very weird metabolism in that it never knows when to kick in properly. So I'm going to try this specific diet, which is known as metabolic confusion, and fingers crossed that'll actually work this time.
Fair enough.
Can't say I know anything about it, but it sounds interesting and I hope it works.
Yeah.
Right. I know obviously it's been the Christmas period, Rem, but have you had a chance to read anything in between your ridiculous
I
sleep?
managed to finish off the Astorath novel.
Okay.
And the bonus short story included in that. Which I have many complaints about that bonus short story. Mainly because the bonus short story feels utterly redundant. But I'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, let's throw up a spoiler warning then and catch everybody up on where we were at the end of the last episode. I think Astorath had not yet shown up and the Red Wings were doing a thing.
Yeah, basically, the Enslavers had just turned up on the actual planet manifesting through bodies of Psychers. Red Wings are trying to fight them off. A couple of the Red Wings end up falling to the Black Rage during the course of the conflict. To the point where, the squad leader's where's so-and-so? Check the comm link. Horace, why are you doing this? Why? It's we'll better cut that, mute that. Where the fuck are they gone? We don't know. They've buggered off into the wild somewhere. So then Astorath, basically we come back to the present saying, and that's what happened. And Astorath's okay, so we're going to go back down in the world, try and find out, where the fuck these, Black Rage victims are, because we need to bring the Emperor's peace.
Yep.
And they're are we going to do anything about the enslavers, considering we don't really want to have an enslaver plague on top of everything else that's been going on at the same time. And it's kind of that's a secondary problem. We'll deal with it if we have to.
Right.
So Astorath and his crew go down to the world because, their priority is just to, get the Black Rage victims and nothing else. That is their priority, as one does when you're a high chaplain. So they're going around and they meet up with a couple of local trackers because obviously this world is pretty much all swampland. So they don't know where the bloody hell they're going. So they get local trackers. One of the trackers is a young woman who looks like she's going to piss herself and cry at any chance she gets because she looks at Astorath like, oh god, you're going to kill me, I'm going to cry now, kind of thing.
I mean, Angel of Death, yes.
Astorath has that effect on pretty much everyone, even spacemen's go oh, I don't want to look at him in the eyes. And the other one's an Imperial Guard sergeant who probably has the biggest set of balls I've ever seen on anyone, because not only does he look, meet Astorath's gaze and look him in the eyes, he's sitting there with a smug smirk on his face, casually, feet up on the desk, not flinching. It's oh, so you're the Blood Angel Chaplain, eh? Oh, good for you. I don't give a fuck, kind of thing. What? And Astorath's like, this one's interesting. Which is basically the closest thing he would say as to say, I like you, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's you are not afraid to be a dick to me. I like you.
It's why aren't you scared? It's I've been in the guard on the tour of duty and they gave me a plot of land and discharged me. What the bloody hell have I got to be scared of? It's fair point. So they're searching for these Black Rage victims, And the enslavers are basically drifting about in the sky, and what we learn in regards to how they actually move, they're literally just killer tentacle balloons, essentially. They just float on the air currents. They don't fly, they just float, so the wind literally blows them around, which seems a bit silly, personally.
I don't know
So, like,
why, but the Junji Ito story with the floating heads comes to mind.
oh, the hanging balloons, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of, again, making another Pokemon reference, Drifloon and Drifbloom.
That also came to mind, but that I was just like, oh, wait, Junji Ito.
Yeah, fair.
So they made their first protocol at, the big oil rig type place where the outbreak initially began, and they find out the enslavers are effectively breeding there. Like, they find like a shit ton of eggs that are hatching to have like little enslaver larvae, and the enslavers are literally like using their mind control powers to basically have people slit their own throats and jump into the water so their larvae can feed on them.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, great, it's the Demonofuge 2.0.
And at this point, the Space Marines get spotted.
Not the Demonofuge, that's... Sorry.
The Space Marines get spotted not by the enslavers, not by the human slaves, but by the seagulls, which are under the control of the enslavers as well.
I don't know. You can tell this is definitely written by a British person. Seagulls here are fucking bitches.
The seagulls and the bats as well. So, yeah, the enslavers can control the minds of anything.
I think Guy Haley had a bad experience on Morecambe Beach or something.
They can control the minds of anything except for the eels, because apparently the eels on the world do not have brains.
Of course.
Jeez.
Apparently they just have an incredibly advanced spinal cord.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, and speaking of the eels, they order for a large strike to basically blow up, the enslaverness, because they kind of realize, we can't let this nest survive. So large strike this, boom, okay. We're gonna go and look for the Black Ray victims over here now, and so they're paddling upriver, and they find the ruins of this big boat. Blood Angels turn around and say to the humans, right, you guys stay here. Because the humans don't actually know about the Black Rage either. They're just looking for the Lost Brothers. So they're sitting on the boat.
Daemon Kilaba, that was the thing I was thinking of. The Daemon Kilaba. It's the Daemon Kilaba 2.0.
A very large eel slams into the boat. So the humans are like, okay, we're going to get into this ruin boat because it's, big and steel and a bit safer. We need to let the Blood Angels know because, these things are pretty big. And by big, I mean, hey, this thing's, got the head the size of a Thunderhawk gunship. And that's my dog agreeing with you.
Good timing, Tyrion.
Yes.
Oh, he's such a good boy.
Don't encourage him.
I will.
So
this
anyway,
is a threat.
So they climb onto the boat, and the Blood Angels are like, why the bloody hell are you here? I told you to stay on the boat, because there's, remains of, fishermen that have been literally torn to shreds by, the Black Rage victims.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then they get attacked by a gigantic eel that's even bigger. It swallows Astorath.
I can see where this is going.
Oh, great.
Astorath loses his axe as he gets swallowed.
Mm-hmm.
So he... the best way to describe it is that he literally just walks out of the eel's stomach through the side of its body by just pushing his way out.
I'm just thinking of the SpongeBob gif where he goes for the wall and it's slowly imprints him into the wall, then he bursts out.
Kind of that, but a bit more gory. Yeah.
Although I will say Gazkul did it better when he punched a Morlock in the stomach so hard it made him throw him back up.
Yeah. And Astorath gets his axe thrown back to him, and he ends up cutting the eel's head off, as you do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, the other Blood Angels are being attacked by a whole bunch of smaller eels, because of course there is. And they end up killing all the eels, and they're about to throw them overboard, and then one of the blood angels says, "Hey, you guys eat these things on this world, don't you? Yeah? How do they taste? Yeah, they're pretty good. Then tonight we eat well." So they end up tracking down, eventually, the Black Rage victims. They fight against... Astorath fights against them, games with the Emperor's peace, and then orders for, effectively orders exterminatus upon the world. And then they fly off and fuck off. Right, we gotta find another Black Rage victim because we can hear the song, blah, blah, blah. This leads to the bonus short story, which is utterly redundant, in my opinion, because it's pretty much just rehashing the entire plot, but in a shorter form. Because the bonus short story, the story is literally Astorath goes to a world because he knows there's someone falling to the Black Rage, except this time it's on a mushroom planet instead of a swamp planet, and he tracks down a blood angel and basically gives him the Emperor's Peace, blah blah blah. And I just think it was utterly pointless to include that as a bonus short story. If it was like
because seagulls.
Why did they blow up the planet? I thought they land struck the enslaver nest away, therefore they didn't need to blow up the planet. Why did they blow up the planet?
Because
they didn't blow it up, they just nuked it.
Why though?
Seagulls.
Because it was tainted.
Seagulls.
Because too many people. Because apparently the populace also knew about the populace also knew about the Black Rage. Like, we don't really want that news spreading.
Oh right, okay. So Astorath is just a giant dick. Got it.
And we can use the enslavers as justification for doing so.
No, I can see what Tack is trying to say in that it's incredibly redundant. It's like, if you're going to nuke the hell out of the world, why did you send him down there to deal with the victims?
Yeah, and they dealt with because they dealt with the enslavers, it seemed like, okay, you've dealt with the world-ending threat. Good, let's go home.
Now we're going to end the world.
Let me finish. They found a nest.
So they just assumed there were more, but because the populace actually found about the Black Rage, they've made a sweeping assumption and blew the whole planet up.
Considering the fact the enslavers were also going around and attacking other cities, yeah, pretty much.
Okay, fine. If you'd have said that before and then they blew the world up, that would have made more sense, because it seemed like, okay, job done, let's go home. Oh, by the way, nuke it on the way out.
They didn't blow the world up. The world's still intact. They just
killed everything on it.
Pretty much, yeah. Though, in fairness, they did evacuate a good chunk of the population beforehand who weren't tainted or didn't know about the Black Rage.
Yeah, it just seemed utterly redundant. Like, we've dealt with the threat, and we've dealt with our problem. Now let's blow it up and go home. We've already dealt with all the problems on it. Now let's blow it up.
But
I know they didn't.
Guys, you need to also bear in mind as well from last time.
It's written by Guy Haley.
The world at that point in time was experiencing a massive increase in the amount of psychers manifesting on the world. Like, it was 1,000 times the amount of normal psychers appearing on the world.
Isn't that just the psychic awakening, though?
Yeah.
Kind of, but the justification was, if the enslavers are coming through, what else can come through?
Oh, I get the justification in terms of how the Blood Angels rationalised it, but it's just the way you said it was like, okay, we beat the enslavers, we dealt with our problem, now let's go home.
Now
by the way, drop a nuke on the way out. That's how it came across the first time. On the first telling, it's like, we've dealt with all the problems, now let's nuke it to make sure.
Though I am just going to say, it is written by Guy Haley, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I completely understand for stuff to not make sense happen.
But in fairness, it's a hell of a lot better than the Curse novel.
God, don't.
I'll give credit for that. But again, going back to the bonus short story, it seemed utterly redundant to include a short story in with a novel, a basic rehash of the same story of, like, hey, this blood angel's fallen to the Black Rage, I better find him and give him the Emperor's Peace, which is basically the story of the first book anyway.
It's all Astorath does.
Yeah, but
that's his job.
Yeah, I know. Let me put it this way, though. With the Dante Special Edition, you had a bonus short story in there, which wasn't just a rehash of his story in any way. Because the bonus short story in that was basically to explain a question that was brought up in that book, which was, why the fuck does Dante hate the Angels Vermilion so much? And this story was, hey, this is what they fucking did to piss Dante off. So what you could have done instead, as a short story, you could have had something like, say, how Astorath became the High Chaplain, how he inherited the position from his predecessor, or a conversation between him and Corpula in regards to the Black Rage in Primaris Marines, for example. Or even him debating on what to possibly do with Lamates, the Guardian of the Lost, who's the chaplain who's fallen to the Black Rage yet is able to control it to some extent. There was a whole bunch of other possibilities you could explore without just rehashing the same story.
True. Actually, when you put it that way, yeah, true. Because Astorath is definitely he's not the least understood character of the Blood Angels hero set, and there's a lot of them. But he's certainly one of the more mysterious. And to be honest, I think, not I'm saying I like him that way, because no, the Sanguinor has that job and should stay in that position. But I remember reading that Astorath is the one who stood up for the Flesh Tearers and refused to let the Flesh Tearers die, even though the Council of the Blood was convened to execute them. Astorath said, no, not having it, and spoke up in Seth's defense. And so on. So it is interesting. He is an interesting character in terms of what he does and what he stands for. So yeah, it is a fair point. And I suppose you could have played with interesting questions of him thinking about him having that time to reflect. But because it seems like the book is told not from his perspective, you don't really see into his head the same way you see into Mephistopheles' head in his books or Dante's head.
The first half of the book is pretty much told from the Red Wings' perspective, but the second half is told from the perspective of Astorath and his entourage, which are a sanguinary priest and a smart-ass, really angsty Blood Angel sergeant.
I mean, they're Blood Angels, aren't they? All angsty.
No. He's kind of like he's kind of like the Blood Angels equivalent of Hudson from Aliens. That's what you describe him. When things go bad, he's like, oh, this shit's bad. But when normal time, he's just a bit of a prick kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, overall, the book itself is, it's actually not that bad. But then again, it is ridiculously short. Because it's only 180 pages. It's shorter than most of the fucking Primarch novels, to be honest. And again, the bonus short story was utterly redundant. The short story itself wasn't bad. And if it was a standalone digital release, on Black Library, it'd be fine. But including that as the bonus, it's just like, hey, in this novel, we have Astorath tracking down a Blood Angel who's fallen to the Black Rage. What's the bonus short story? He tracks down a Blood Angel who's fallen to the Black Rage. It's like, okay, what's the difference? We swapped it for a swamp for a mushroom. Anyway, that's that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then spoilers. So welcome back, everyone.
Indeed.
Rant over.
And have I cut out again? I don't know.
No.
Because everyone's going very quiet.
No. I don't know if you just desynced from the rest of us, because you seem to be there were times it was like you were just talking 30 seconds desynced from the rest of us.
Yelling for 30 seconds, being like, wait, they blew up the world.
And you just carried on as like you couldn't hear me, but it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything here.
The joys of technical difficulties, it's quite normal. And it'll probably sound quite funny in the edit. But yes, unfortunately I've had to cancel my order for Darkness in the Blood and all of that, because it just was never turning up. So I'm placing the order separately through Black Library Direct, and since I'm working from home most of next week with the current guidelines on schools in England, I will hopefully get them to arrive next week, and I can start reading them, because I just want to read the books, damn it. Because I still need to read Darkness in the Blood, speaking of Guy Haley and Blood Angels and Dante and stuff.
So what about you? Have you read any more books? Stick?
Me? No. This Christmas holiday, the only things I've done are work on commissions, work on stuff for my portfolio, and sleep.
Yeah, I definitely relate on the sleep part. It's been a time to catch up on all the lost sleep.
Basically, though I did finally manage to get a hold of my special edition Night Lords books, because I'm pretty sure I told you about this, Rem, where they accidentally got sent to my mum's place but my mum wasn't able to send them, and so when I came down, I finally was able to get hold of them, and I'm finally going to be able to take them back with me to Norwich and have them and read them. And
is that Soul Hunter and the Talos Valkoran books, or is that a different?
Yeah, back in the summer, I think it was the first week of August, they released the new, no, sorry, not new. Basically, it's like all of those books, but in a special edition and in a nice little case altogether.
Yeah, I've heard like a whole bunch of people had issues with the actual the slipcase from. Like, a whole bunch of people reported their slipcases were damaged.
Right, well, I wouldn't know because I haven't opened it yet, but I will be able to tell you tomorrow.
That is fair.
But no, I had a whole time with, like, dealing with that, because at first, the fault was with me in that I ordered them, and because I was in a panic, because I didn't want it to, be taken all out by scalpers, I forgot to put my new address instead of my, I forgot to put my new address. I put my old address at being my mum's place, and then I sent them an email straight away because I realised and was like, hey, I've accidentally put the wrong address. Here's my order number. Here's the old address that it's being sent to. I want it to be sent to this address, though. Is that okay? And then they responded a whole week later after it had been sent.
That's disappointing to hear, because when I ordered, admittedly, I went through GW rather than, I don't know if you did yours through Black Library rather than Games Workshop, your order. But when I spoke to GW to get my replacement base for Techless, I said I ordered it through this third-party store, and I don't think I've got the receipt. Can I have one? Here's the evidence that it's damaged. And they said, yeah, sure, no problem. And just said, do you happen to have the receipt? And I did. I had the cardholder's receipt, but it didn't say that it was Techless on it, and it was a reduced price, so it wasn't a match up to Techless, because the stock gets like 20% off new orders. And I sent them that and said, I'm sorry, this is all I've got. And said, no, that's fine, we'll send it through. And they just sent it. Whenever I've dealt with customer services, admittedly it's GW, not BL, they've always been right on their game. Even just, I sent the email in the morning, and they were with me by the end of the morning.
Yeah, and that's
in fairness,
kind
with
of
the
like
whole
the
lockdown thing.
Well,
with the whole lockdown thing, they have been having all their customer service staff working from home.
Yeah,
as well,
but at the same time, I've worked in customer service. Even when you're working at home, you should still be on it. And this was during a time when lockdown wasn't that bad. This was in August. So it should have been dealt with a lot sooner. And I think the really frustrating thing for me was, like, I sent it right after I made the order, and I had to wait a whole week for a response. And by the time I got the response, they turned around and was just like, oh yeah, sorry, by the way, it's already been sent. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah,
which, I'm very lucky it was sent to my mum's place, but if, like, it was a case that it had been sent to, like, an old, old
uni address
residence, that I didn't live at or no one I knew lived at, I would have been effed. And that's a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how much the special editions cost to get, because I've never tried to get one. I'm normally still getting out of bed at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. But it's definitely expensive trying to get a limited edition of anything. I remember when I tried to get the Lumineth box, that was the only limited edition thing I've ever ordered. Granted, it was weird because it didn't sell out. But I remember being sat on the train thinking, when's the Lumineth going to drop? And when am I going to get there? I need to get there, but I need to also make sure I have a signal for when I get there. So that I can place the order. It doesn't cut out, so I can't do it while I'm on the train in case I go through a tunnel. It is panic stations trying to get your hands on a limited order.
Yeah, and it's because of the panic that I ended up putting the wrong address. They really need to sort out the scalper situation.
Well, that's basically why they stopped doing, like, limited edition releases on Black Library's site as well.
Yeah.
Because on Black Library, you could literally order, like, like, hey, here's a limited edition. Okay, quantity 100, and you could do that on Black Library, but on Games Workshop they do it like this is limited to 1 per order, so they have to like do it 100 times to get them.
By which time they'll only be able to really get 2 by the time they've gone through the process twice.
Yeah. So it's better than the old system they did have with Black Library's website.
Yeah.
But when did they bring that in?
After the Solar War limited edition fiasco.
So what? June?
Solar War, was that... When was Solar War released?
Actually, no, Solar War was much earlier. Because Solar War was before lockdown, wasn't it? I think it was...
It was long before... It was 2019 when the mass market version came out. March 2019.
Oh, I'm an entire year out.
And that was the standard edition. And the limited edition was about 6 months earlier. So it was about this...
September 2018.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
I didn't realise it had been in place that long, because every single time something comes out, you just assume everything gets scalped. I'd forgot they'd put that in. I didn't realise it was so early. Because I know there was...
Because...
Yeah, I suppose
because Black Library was basically like... It kept crashing when people kept trying to place the order. And then they found that people would be like placing orders for like 50 copies or whatever. You know, and that was when I also got charged about 3 times for the one book.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at this now. So it was on August the 1st that this all went down, and they didn't get back to me till August the 7th.
Dear, oh dear. Yeah, it's certainly not consistent across how Black Library, Forge World, and GW handle things. I mean, I've never had to go through Forge World to get anything
it was Games
fixed.
Workshop, though. It wasn't Black Library.
Oh, I thought you said that you... Because I said earlier, I thought you went through...
Black Library hasn't done any physical releases since before lockdown.
No, it was Games Workshop.
Oh, okay, fair enough then. I'll take back everything I said about how consistent I found GW customer service. I'll wind that back.
So yeah, sorry.
No, it's fair enough, and I guess I've just got lucky that I got through to the right people. I got through at the right time. I don't know. I got lucky. So yeah. Yeesh. Not good. Not good at all.
Yeah.
Right. Where are we? Oh, blimey, we're talking for nearly an hour and a half. Where did that go? Where did an hour and a half just go?
Yelling about seagulls, probably.
Yeah, I still stand by Guy Haley had a bad day at Morecambe Beach.
I mean, who hasn't? I'm pretty sure...
Yeah, maybe not Morecambe, but some other beach in England, because he's from up north.
I think anyone from Britain has had a traumatic experience with a seagull at some point. Everyone from Britain, apart from Remleiz, has had a traumatic experience with a seagull at some point. Because I know when I was a little girl, this was, I think, it was either on Brighton or Eastbourne Beach. We were going along the beach, and I saw like this giant feather in the sand, and me being a kid was like, "Oh yeah, feather!" Pulls it out, it's a giant dead seagull. So yeah, we've all had a traumatic experience at some point, to some extent. Some people less dead seagull and more stealing chips. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
So when you were describing those killer seagulls, I absolutely believe they are vicious.
Agreed. Right, should we do some questions, do you think?
Might as well.
And actually, I've got a good one that starts by tying into Blood Angels. So, in War of Secrets, which is the Dark Angels Tau book, I think, and one of the Blood Angels books, many Primaris Marines, I'm hoping this isn't Darkness in the Blood, I'm worried it's going to be Darkness in the Blood, but I don't know that because they don't name it. Many Primaris Marines are downright jerks. One Blood Angels Primaris says to Mephiston's face that Dante is a poor excuse for a chapter master. Dark Angels Primaris view the Firstborn as pathetic and corrupted, impure weaklings, and they blatantly say the Firstborn are less pure and unworthy of their Primarch's legacy. Why? Why is it genetic? Are they just a bunch of dicks? Is it Call's personal commentary? And why haven't they been censured or, well, in the case of some chapters, just put down for it?
Then the answer is yes. It's probably all of the above to some extent, in fairness.
Yeah, I mean, most Space Marines are prideful in their own way. The Blood Angels are particularly up their own backsides when they want to be. And the Dark Angels are so purity and secrecy obsessed.
It's an exception to the rule when you find a Space Marine chapter who aren't assholes. And the only ones who really come into mind are the Salamanders. To an extent.
Yeah, pretty much. But it is interesting to find that the Primaris are not just, dicks to humans, because that's what all Space Marines do because they're genetically superior and believe it and know it. But they're acting like that to their own ancestors and dishonoring the chapter that they are and the legion they once came from, and saying, yeah, these Space Marines that carried the Imperium in the Great Crusade, those ones, those guys who fought with the Primarchs, beat the Megarachnids and everything else, they're not worthy of the Primarch's legacy. They are not fit to be in our chapter. I'm sorry, Captain whatever. I know.
It's boomers versus zoomers. That's why.
But it whatever it is, and I'd be interested to see if it is
boomers versus zoomers.
Because I haven't read enough Primaris literature to know how the Ultramarines are when it comes to the Firstborn, or how any other chapter really treats its Firstborn versus its Primaris, or how the Primaris treat their Firstborn in general. I can imagine the Ultramarines are a bit more polite because Guilliman is right there and will probably punch them if they try anything. But yeah, we've always been interested to how the Firstborn view the Primaris. We talked about that loads of times on different podcasts about, they're going to see them like their replacement or something like that. But we've never really stopped to think how the Firstborn is seen by the Primaris, especially those who haven't crossed the Rubicon, like those brand new, what's the name for the Primaris that came from Call's lab? The
Grey Shields?
No, there's three different names. There's the Firstborn. There's the ones that were from Call's lab that formed the Grey Shields. They had a particular name. And then the ones who were recruited later have another name, and I've forgotten what it is. It is, I've just got to look at the video script that I wrote. Where are they? The Indoctrinated and the Awoken. That's it. So the Awoken are Call's lot, and the Indoctrinated are the ones made later from recruits in general. We've never really thought about how they see their own legacy, I guess. But it is interesting.
Mm-hmm. I stand by boomers versus zoomers.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Fair. Okay.
Disrespect for your elders.
Quite so. Can Tyranids enter the Pariah Nexus?
We'll find out at some point, I assume.
Yeah. I think in theory they should be able to. They won't like it, but they should, because it's not a complete dead zone for the warp. It's just bad to be slightly psychic in there. So I'm guessing they can do it, they just won't like it. If they can like anything.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, so spoilers for Saturnine and Talon of Horus, but I think Saturnine's old enough that it's fine. And Talon of Horus is the Abaddon novel, right?
The first Abaddon novel, yeah. So quite a while old, yeah.
Okay. is Falcus Kyber dead or alive? Because he dies in Saturnine, but in Talon, he's alive to make the Bringers of Despair. So is it resurrection or stolen identity? What?
Basically, we don't know at this particular point in time. It could be something as simple as Dan Abnett fucked up, which isn't outside of the realm of possibility, because these things do happen. Because remember in Ashes of Prospero when Gathorpe said, like, oh, Eagle Ironwolf's doing this, even though he died during, Wrath of Magnus. So it could be just something as simple as that, or because, Kyber was possessed at the time, it could be something as simple as he died, but he got better.
Yeah, because he says in Saturnine he dies, but some sort of black demon sludge or blood leaves his body, perhaps implying that he was...
Yeah, because he
perhaps
is...
someone's using him as meat suit.
From what I can recall, he was described as being possessed, so...
Yeah, so...
It could be some...
Yeah, so maybe he was exorcised in death, but survived and then became enhanced to make the Bringers of Despair, maybe? Because he is the captain of First Company, even now in the Black Legion, as I recall.
Yeah, so it could be something as simple as that, or someone fucked up.
Absolutely fair. Okay. So, the name Amara Starte, that... I feel like I should know that name. Amara Starte.
Amara Starte,
She
she's
created
the one
the Space
who...
Marines.
Yeah, she's who the Astartes is actually named after.
Okay, well, apparently she was responsible for the Thunder Warrior Revolt. Is that right? Because I know...
I know
that
she did rebel against the Emperor at some point to some capacity. Like most of his friends tend to.
She rebelled because she didn't want the Space Marines to go through the same shit that Thunder Warriors went through.
Yeah.
From what I can recall. But in regards to the Thunder Warriors, her actions in the Thunder Warrior Revolt, I don't think she was directly responsible. It's been a while since I've read the Valdor novel.
Yeah, because it was sort of... were a few of the High Lords were involved in it, but I don't remember her name coming up when I did the reading on the Thunder Warriors.
Yeah, because one of the High Lords basically was like, effectively wanting to put Valdor on trial for genocide, essentially. Because, like, hey, you just massacred a whole bunch of loyal servants of the Imperium by massacring the Thunder Warriors. So, yeah, you're the bad guy, Valdor. And Valdor's like... Yeah, right, bitch. Hey, look, what have I got here? Oh, look, it's the Dark Angels.
Yeah, Canderwire. Marshal Canderwire.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of saying that, was this possibly encouraged by Erda, who I think was the Primarch's mother?
The Primarch's mum.
The Primarch's mum.
That's it.
Primar.
Sort of suggesting that maybe she had an influence in trying to turn other people on the Emperor, or maybe Chaos just, poked its head in.
I mean, that possibly, that literally just came back to my point that it seems to be there's a running theme of most of the Emperor's friends betraying him to some capacity.
It's because they realise he's a bit of a prick.
I was going to say, is it turning on him, or is it realising he's an asshole? And yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because like the only reason why Erda decided to turn against the Emperor is because the Emperor went like, yeah, these are basically going to be my
He basically kind of gave
blah, blah, blah.
a villain's speech about what he was going to do with them, and she decided, it's like, I want none of that. And then...
It's more of a case of like, no, I'm not going to put my kids through that shit. Yeet.
It was the ultimate custody battle.
Yeah, because of her actions, Angron had a whole bunch of nails shoved into his skull.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet he's going to say, thanks for that, Mom.
He has mummy and daddy issues now.
Angron just has issues in general.
That's a fair point.
Mainly anger issues.
I mean, it's not his fault.
He's like an amalgam of issues in a vaguely humanoid shape, shambling around. And yes, I did take that from the H.P. Lovecraft video by Overly Sarcastic Productions.
Which is a fair place to take from.
Yeah.
Right.
I've never seen any of that stuff.
Me neither, but it seems reasonable.
I'll send you the video later as well.
Right. This should be interesting. Which would you think is the cruelest of fates? being a space marine and going out in the most horrible way possible, maybe, say, at the hands of the Hesperax in the Comorite arenas, or being a Stormcast. Because the Stormcast
I'd say Space Marine, because Stormcast, they at least get to forget, like, what killed them, and they have, they're kind of immortal. Properly immortal.
I don't know enough about Stormcast in general to answer.
I'd say Stormcast have the more cushy experience.
So the Stormcast are ripped from the mortal realms at their point of death and transformed into celestial beings by Sigmar, clad in the finest armor and yada, yada, yada. When they die, they transmute into lightning and travel back to Azir, where they undergo a reforging process on the Anvil of Apotheosis, where formerly the Sacrosanct Chamber, now kind of no one, puts them back together, make sure their soul doesn't run off to become a lightning geist in the skies of Azir, and Jim has to fight them and batter them down into a being once again. This long term has very drastic effects on the Stormcast body and mind. Some of them deteriorate mentally to the point where they are naught but savage killers. Some are still noble of aspect but forget everything. And there's a story in, I think it's Myths and Revenants, of a Stormcast who asks to remember and is driven mad by the experience and now can't die either. And it's a case of, is a quick, awful death worse than immortality as a shadow of who, and a husk of who you used to be? It's difficult. It depends on your
They are, however, granted the mercy of forgetting and everything, whereas you also have to consider that it's pretty shit existence, like being a child ripped from your mother, going through the constant bullshit that leads up to becoming a space marine, then on top of all of that, like having your organs ripped out of you and replaced, etc., 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 only to then die horribly at the hands of some Comorite who is going to draw out your death as long and painfully as possible. I know which one I'd prefer.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I don't think there is a right answer here. I suppose it depends on your outlook on different things in terms of... it definitely depend on your outlook, though I'm just saying from my preference, I know I prefer to be a Stormcast. Yeah, for me, I think I'd rather it just be over with, personally, but I don't know. I think maybe because I'm so much like I live in my own head, trying to control my own emotions and not lose it, that then losing who I am would just be
the thing is, though,
for me personally,
you also need to consider that then the problem if you're dying in Comora, then what's called a homunculus is likely to get hold of your parts. And
the homunculi make it absolutely horrid, and I'm not saying that if it was the homunculi versus the Lith, then I'm picking the Stormcast anyway, because the homunculi will make you suffer. But if you assume it's quick...
No, I'm just saying after you've died, and then the homunculus, revives you, because they are known to be able to actually revive people with their actual souls and everything intact as well. So when you consider that is probably going to happen, and then they're going to turn you into some even more monstrous being who's constantly screaming in pain whilst forced to serve them.
Take your point.
I know which one I prefer.
Yeah, take your point. You take your point. Okay. Where am I going? Sorry, I got very distracted on there trying to answer that.
Sorry.
No. Sorry. Okay. I don't think this question is quite fair, but it's worth clarifying anyway. So this person asks, how come the Imperial Guard get, no love whatsoever? Why are they always used as punching bags while the Space Marines do the important work? Have they even accomplished anything so far in the story? And I'm like, yes. Yeah. There's a lot of Guard stories where the Guard go...
Novels?
Gaunt's Ghosts.
Gaunt's Ghosts, The Last Chances, Commissar Yarrick.
Yeah.
Caiaphas Cain.
Caiaphas Cain, yeah.
Caiaphas Cain, hero of the Imperium. Sorry.
The Strachan novels.
Strachan, yeah. Cadia, in general, Cadia.
Yeah, the meme is,
Talon.
yes, they're meat shields, but they do a lot. And are respected in their own right.
I know it's technically Imperial Army, but Talon, the people of Talon beat the shit out of the Iron Warriors so hard they forced them to retreat.
Katakan fought off a demonic incursion so hard that they were just chilling by the time the Indomitus Crusade showed up.
We're here to help you against demons. No, we did that 3 weeks ago, mate.
Yeah.
Got any more fags? Nothing.
Yeah, quite so. So, yes, the Imperial Guard have got a lot done. They don't get all the glory, I'll agree with that, but they have got a lot done.
Mm-hmm. Don't just listen to the memes, kids.
Absolutely. Do you believe that Necron Mindshackle Scarabs could be powerful enough to take control of a Genestealer Patriarch? And if so, could they use... Go on.
Can I just ask who asked this question? Is it Z?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't Z.
Continue.
If it was, it would just be, do you like Necrons?
So, are Necron Mindshackle Scarabs powerful enough to take over a Genestealer Patriarch? If so, would this allow them to control the entire cult? I'm going to go yes to the first and no to the second. Because the Necrons have no way to control psychic power. They would have to be able to not just physically jack into the body and mind of the Genestealer Patriarch, which I think they could do, but they then have to understand and manipulate the brood mind, and I don't think a Mindshackle Scarab can do that.
There's also the fact of hey, once a hive fleet comes within close proximity, bam, the Patriarchs fall under the sway of the hive mind, which is a hell of a lot more powerful.
And that. Because I think there's a difference between... I think they could physically control it, but there's no way they'd be able to use it psychically to dominate the cult.
That's not even taking into account, hey, if this is one of those, Chaos Genestealer cults, hey, that's not a Patriarch, that's an Oracle. And it's now possessed by a Bloodthirster.
Yeah, it's not the best plan. And I know Mindshackle Scarabs in-game are able to do things to demons and Tyranids and stuff, but again, physical versus psychic.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily use in-game mechanics to represent things from a lore standpoint.
No, also that, but they talk about, they don't just talk about what it does in-game. Back in 5th edition, they actually gave little descriptors of what all these things were and what they did and how they worked. And it did so that it sort of was able to seize control of their body and things like that.
Unlike the current edition, which basically just goes so fucking bare bones, jumping from 2nd to 3rd edition all over again. Without having the fucking drop in price to reflect that. Seriously, a 2nd edition codex was 15 quid, right? For a 250 page book, or 300 page book in the case of the Chaos one. Because the Chaos one, you got 3 whole army lists in that. But then you got the 3rd edition codex, 3rd edition codices, they were 8 quid. Because they're only 50 pages long. So they're they half the price pretty much, which is fair.
Yeah, I don't own a 9th edition codex yet, so I don't know how shallow they really are in terms of lore and trivia.
I mean, right, so you know how the 8th edition codices, it's the first half of the book is lore, then the second half of it is rules, right?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah. The 9th edition one, it's the first third of the book is lore and the rest is just rules.
Yeah, because I suppose they've got to get Crusade in there as well. So, okay, fair enough. Okay, this is going to get a bit long-winded, so bear with me. Mm-hmm. So, if a soul is like an echo of a person's thoughts and feelings in the warp, And an echo is scientifically the rebounding of a sound wave from a surface, a reflection of that wave. Is it possible that the Gatan ate the energy of the electrical impulses in the Necrontyr nervous system and their biochemical processes rather than like their souls? Because they originally...
The 9th edition codex now says flat out that the Gatan ate their souls.
You cut out on the last word. Is that the Gatan ate their... and died?
Souls.
Fair enough.
So basically, it went. So the Gatan lore, it went from the Gatan ate the physical remains of Necrontyr 2, the Gatan consumed the life force of Necrontyr. Now it's just they consume their souls.
Fair enough. So maybe in 8th edition or 7th edition, that description would have worked. Now it doesn't.
9th edition, no. So Necron lore, where nothing is consistent and nothing matters.
Yeah. Someone suggested, hey, try to explain the Necron retcons. Why not just say chronomancy? It's just chronomancers going back and rewriting it or something like that.
I mean, just wait until 10th edition. It'll be back to being chaos androids. And I can imagine Zia screaming in the comments right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's watching, he'll not be happy with that.
Remember, Lucius managed to possess a Necron. And a tomb world got chaotically corrupted, so...
In the back of my mind, just frothing at the mouth now. You have angered him.
Yeah.
I'm never going to let him forget that either. The fact that our tomb world got corrupted by chaos.
I feel like we should just get him on the show one of these days and just have it out and just be done with it. And then we can have a timer running of time spent talking about Necrons and see how little we can make him talk about Necrons in an episode.
That could be the Necron drinking game. Every time he talks about Necrons, you'll be passed out within the first 5 minutes.
It's like instead of the head desk counter that we were talking about earlier, instead have the Necron counter.
Yeah, possibly. Right. Okay. So, other than the Fallen, what other secrets do the Dark Angels hold for the Imperium? Do they contain, and I'm assuming this is a reference, SCP anomalies? Protect important individuals who are oblivious that they have chaos in their genes? Go to great lengths in protecting the Imperium that they fight alongside Eldari and Alpha Legion? Contain dangerous unknown artifacts that are too dangerous, etc. If any of this...
Okay, I just want to...
Alright, go on. I'll answer that first.
I just want to say in regards to the whole SCP thing, that's the job of the Shadowkeepers host of the Custodians, okay? That's their job.
I don't know. I'd say that would be more of a Ordo Hereticus or Ordo Malleus.
No, literally, the actual law for the Shadowkeepers is that they keep watch over, like, powerful entities that were created over time, like strange weapons or monstrous creatures and all that are kept in the dark cells underneath the Imperial Palace. They are literally the SCP.
They are literally the SCP Foundation. But yeah, the reason I say, Ordo Hereticus or Ordo Malleus, though, is because when it comes to SCPs, not all of them are, of course, just monsters. Some of them are like literal demons, like the Scarlet King.
Yeah. But again, it's literally the Shadowkeeper's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D-class?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, the artifacts bit I could possibly see, because the Dark Angels were the ones given Archaeotech back in the Legion days to trial and use. But...
Oh, that's the point. Since the Lion novel is actually out now, does that mean we can actually talk about it without having to go into spoiler territory?
I think it's been out long enough.
Right. Can we just talk about how stupid it was that they got an entire fucking cadre of Men of Iron?
Oh, yeah! That's a thing. I forgot that was a thing.
Dumb. I'm sorry, I just thought that was done like, literally, like, hey, we got Pet Men of Iron, there's a Tech Marine walking behind with his hand literally hovering above the off switch.
I forgot that was a thing. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
So they probably still got him hanging around in the rock somewhere, just sitting in the fucking cupboard, gathering dust. It's like, can we move? Yeah, it's like, no, we don't want to get turned off. It's like, but it's been 10,000 years. Like, yeah, but do you want to risk it though? It's one man of iron son like Richard Ayoade or something.
Yeah, one beat boop
I
out
like
of
being
place and
weird.
it's the off switch for you.
Just goes, I like being weird. Sorry.
Yeah, one misplaced beat boop and that's it for you. But yeah, I suspect the Dark Angels are almost too insular to have that responsibility now in terms of like watching over. If there's an important individual of the Imperium oblivious to having chaos corruption, the Inquisition will shoot them. Protecting the Imperium to the extent of fighting alongside the Eldari and stuff, not the Dark Angels. Some Space Marines might, but not the Dark Angels.
The Dark Angels are known to be incredibly xenophobic by Space Marine standards. They generally won't even fight alongside abhumans.
Mm.
So it's like, if they're not going to fight alongside, Ratlings and Ogrins, what makes you think they're going to fight alongside a Space Elf?
I'd say hell would freeze over sooner, but it's more like, the Eye of Terror would close sooner than them working alongside.
Do you know what the
them.
ironic thing is? The Black Templars of all people have been fighting with the Eldari before the Dark Angels would do it. That's the ironic thing.
Yeah, because how have the Black Templars done that?
They did it with Fall Acadia because they ended up fighting alongside the Inari, didn't they?
They weren't happy about it.
No, but they still did it.
True. They did. They did do it. Right. Where am I going now? And something a little bit festive since it's the episode after Christmas, but it will come out within the 12 days of Christmas, so I think it's fine. Will it? Yeah, 6th of January. It'll come out on the 12th day of Christmas. If Black Library were to make a 40k variant of A Christmas Carol, which faction should be focused on and how would it be executed? Get a planetary governor and show him all the dickish things he's doing to his population. Done.
Yeah.
Planetary governors are incredibly self-obsessed.
Yeah, that or sorry, I was just thinking of maybe the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future being I don't know, the Legion of the Damned or something.
I mean,
Legion of the Damned would be a Ghost of Christmas future.
Yeah.
Ghost of Christmas past will probably be Sanguinius or something.
Yeah. Gross of Christmas present? Ghost of Christmas present. Who would that be?
What was he like in the actual book? He was a big fat guy with a beard, wasn't he?
Yeah, sort of exemplifying sort of the... Oh god, it's been too long since I've read it or watched
Dead Dog. It'd be Nork Dead Dog. Big jolly ogre. He's like, oh, it's Christmas time, isn't it? Time for a laugh. Kind of thing.
Yeah, or maybe if you're trying to get it over another way, maybe you'd use someone like Asaka Creed. I know technically Creed is kind of either dead or in Trazin's Labyrinth at this point.
The ghost of Creed must pass. There we go.
Really? Really?
Someone had to say it.
I mean, wouldn't it be, what's it called? Ghosts of Sanguinala's past and stuff like that.
Which would make sense for it being Sanguinius, I suppose.
Yeah.
But is Sanguinius Christmas or Easter, though?
Most people tend to think
remember,
it as Christmas, but it does, when you actually look at it,
because remember,
it
the
does
one
sound
thing
more
you've
like
got
Easter.
to take into account is that for members of the Administratum, there is only one day a year that they can take off as a holiday, and that is Emperor's Day. And there's also the book 15 Hours, by the way.
It's the feast of it's like the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension, isn't there?
Yes.
Well, that
though to be fair, the Emperor's Ascension and the Death of Sanguinius are about 1, maybe 2 days apart.
So,
2 years apart, did you say?
No, he said 2 days.
I thought we said 2 years apart, sorry.
So maybe Sanguinala
2
is
days.
Good Friday and the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension is Easter Sunday. How about that?
I thought that'd make more sense.
Good Friday is Sanguinala and Easter Sunday is the Feast of the Emperor's Ascension.
There you go, that'll work, yeah.
I don't know, that went in a different direction. But yes, so are there any other particularly pressing or interesting questions that I can get through quickly because I can see we're coming up on 2 hours? Quick one for Rem. Do you believe they will retcon and fix the issue with the Emperor's Sword and the Macrag's Honour in the Dark Imperium rewrites?
Probably not.
I mean, the McCragg's Honour is bugging me because it got left behind and the Red Corsairs had it, and I don't know how Gilliman got it back.
Actually, no, the McCragg's Honour thing, that did get answered in the 12 short stories thing that Black Library did, the prequel.
Oh,
because
yeah, they did about it.
Because Frater Matthew was actually on the McCragg's Honour when it was captured by the Red Corsairs, apparently. Don't ask me how. I haven't read the story. But apparently this story explains, what basically happened. So...
Okay, so they fixed that one.
Yeah.
Though I
was just more confused. Going back to Dark Imperium quickly, I was just more confused with the scene. Like at first, hey, you know how Gilliman was, had his throat slit by Fulgrim and has to wear this special suit of armor that acts as his life support system.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? He's walking around with a fucking toga now without his armor. It's like, hang on a fucking moment. Weren't he supposed to die if he took that off?
Yeah. Didn't Vrain specifically, she didn't say he would die, but she basically said, "Oh, I wouldn't recommend taking it off," which
pretty much
implies that he'd die.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, there was a short story that came out, about 2 years later? But even so, it's like, bit of an oversight.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they do rewrite... And, sorry.
I said, all I said was, what is it with elves and life support armor?
But it's interesting because, obviously, Dark Imperium is being retconned to take place, dozens of years earlier now. So... They're going to
20 years into the Crusade now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the end of Phase 1 of the Indomitus Crusade, not the end. So if Gilliman is not walking around in his armour a dozen years after the launch of the Indomitus Crusade, where it's confirmed he can't take the thing off because he sleeps in it, see I've forgotten its name, Dawn of Fire book, Avenging Sun, he sleeps in the armour. In a dozen years, the Imperium barely gets to sign a blooming stimulus check. Never mind work out the technology to make someone like a Primarch cured enough to take their life support from a super death poison blade armor off.
Yeah.
No chance.
I got better.
I know Primarch healing is impressive, but not that
I
good.
feel like you need that as a sound clip now because we keep referring to I got better.
Yeah, right up there with... Surprise! It's Gorax. I can't do it the way Ram does it. But
I'm not doing it.
No, but I feel like there will one day be an Adeptus Podcastus sound bites board somewhere of just right, just hit the button. That's the response.
Remleiz soundboard when?
Never.
Indeed.
Sad.
And on that bombshell, given the time, it's time to call an end to this episode of Adeptus Podcastus. So, thank you very much to everyone who joined us for this episode. We hope you had a good time listening to it. And thank you very much to Arsenictyphoon for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to have you back on the show. And I know, obviously, if you were hoping for a super light and happy start to 2021 on Adeptus Podcastus, you may not have got quite what you were hoping for, but it's been a really good, interesting conversation and lots to think on as well, which is always good.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I've enjoyed it. So once again, genuinely, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me back on.
No worries. So, until next time, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
This has been Tactica Imperialis.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to say something.
No, this is the part where you do your outro.
Yeah.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.